Sacred Starseed of Gaia. The Source has already issued a directive, and the Arcturian field observers have mapped the configuration. The timeline window for this particular soul alignment has opened, and it will not remain open indefinitely. I am Velantha, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light, transmitting now on behalf of the Arcturian field observers. What you are about to receive was authorized by them and is being delivered through me. This is not a promise wrapped in vague hope. This is a precise field directive. One the observers have been waiting for the right window to release, and the window is now. You did not scroll to this by accident. Your soul called this in long before you opened the screen. Something inside you has been waiting to remember. And what it has been waiting to remember is this. The Source has designated a specific person to walk beside you. Not a concept, not an ideal. A specific soul with a specific field already in motion toward the same threshold you are crossing now. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly what is happening in your field right now, why a particular soul configuration keeps pulling at your awareness, and what the Arcturian field observers have already recorded about this phase. But here is the first revelation. This is not a romantic assignment. It is a structural one. The two fields together unlock a frequency neither can sustain alone. And the Source timed this encounter not for your comfort, but for what the combined signal is meant to generate in this precise phase of the planetary shift. The observers have been watching this pattern. They recognize the false resemblances, the near matches, the almost right configurations that carry enough of the signal to confuse you, but not enough to hold the full unlock. This transmission will show you the difference, not by emotion alone, by field signature. This is not content, it is a code, and the part of you that recognized it the moment it began is the part Velantha is speaking to now. Like this transmission to signal to your star family that the recognition has landed, comment 999 if you feel the field of this encounter has already been set in motion. Subscribe to Arcturian Council Whispers if you are ready to understand the process instead of fearing it. Share this transmission with someone whose awareness has been quietly circling a specific presence they cannot yet explain. You are not here by accident. You were guided here because the signal is already active. What is happening in your life right now is not what it appears to be. The surface reads as disruption, as something going wrong, as evidence of your own insufficiency, as proof that you have misread the path or missed the moment. But the Arcturian field observers do not read surfaces. They read configurations, and the configuration they are reading in your field right now is not failure. It is activation wearing the face of collapse. There is a profound difference between those two things, and the inability to see that difference from inside the experience is precisely what makes this phase so difficult to survive without abandoning it prematurely. Something has been shifting beneath your daily life for longer than you have been willing to admit. You may have noticed it first in small ways. A restlessness that arrives without cause. A sense that the life you have constructed no longer feels like yours. A quiet but persistent awareness that the version of you who built these structures and maintained these patterns is no longer the version of you who wakes up every morning. The routines still run. The calendar still fills. The words still come when others expect them. But behind all of that motion, something has gone still in a way that unsettles you, because it does not feel like peace. It feels like a gap between who you are performing and who you are becoming. A gap that widens a little more with each day you try to ignore it. You did not choose this feeling. It arrived, and when it arrived, most of what you tried to do with it was suppress it, explain it away, or quietly wait for it to stop. It has not stopped, and it will not stop, because what you are experiencing is not a malfunction. It is a signal. The Arcturian field observers have a precise name for this phase. They call it Precoherence disruption, the period in which an old field architecture loses its internal integrity before a new one has finished assembling. It is the moment between structures. It is not emptiness. It is reconfiguration. Think of a building whose foundation has been silently undermined from below. The walls are still standing, the rooms still function, but the ground beneath has already shifted, and what remains is held not by structural integrity, but by habit and inertia. That is what the old architecture feels like in this phase. It is still present, but it no longer holds. And the reason this destabilizes you is not because something is going wrong inside you. It is because the field you have been running on for years has become structurally incompatible with the frequency you are now carrying. This is the first thing the observers want you to understand. The collapse you are living through is not a consequence of your choices failing. It is a consequence of your field succeeding. The new frequency has grown strong enough that the old architecture can no longer hold it. Something must give, and what gives first is always the surface. The structures, the identities, the relationships, the routines, the self-concept that was built to serve a version of you that is no longer the dominant signal. The outer life begins to show the strain of an inner life that has already moved past it. And from inside that experience, the natural interpretation is that you are falling apart. The observer's interpretation is the opposite. You have grown past the container. You have felt this in your sleep patterns that no longer cooperate. The nights that end at 3 a.m. for no reason you can name. The exhaustion that sleep no longer fully repairs. In the mental fog that descends without warning, not because you are overwhelmed by too much, but because part of your processing capacity has been redirected towards something invisible. In the strange heaviness that appears not because something terrible has happened, but because something enormous and unseen is bearing down on the life you have been living, pressing against it from the inside. And the way certain people feel suddenly remote, not because conflict intervened, but because the resonance that once held you together has quietly dissolved, leaving behind only the structure of connection without its living current. In the way the future used to look like a continuation of the present, and now it looks like a threshold you cannot see past, as though the road simply ends at a point just beyond your current position, and what lies beyond it has not yet been rendered visible. These are not symptoms of depression. They are not symptoms of confusion or spiritual regression. They are the visible surface of an invisible reordering. They are what field correction looks like from inside the field being corrected. And the observers have mapped this pattern across countless configurations. It always looks like this before it resolves. The disorientation is not the exception. It is the rule. And the ones who misread it as evidence of their own failure are the ones who return to the old architecture at precisely the moment the new one was about to take hold. The specific soul connection Velantha named at the opening of this transmission is not separate from this process. It is woven directly into it, not as a reward waiting at the end, but as a structural element of the correction itself. What you have been feeling pull at your awareness, that particular presence, that recurring configuration in your thoughts, that specific frequency you cannot quite dismiss no matter how many times you try to rationalize it away, is not simply emotional longing. It is field recognition. Two signals that belong in contact are being drawn toward the same threshold at the same time. And the reason that recognition has been producing confusion, uncertainty, and at times even a pain that has no clean explanation is because the fields have not yet fully cleared the architecture that stood in the way. The old structures had to weaken first. The old frequencies had to lose coherence first. Because the encounter that is already in motion, the one the observers have recorded, cannot be stabilized inside the old architecture. The frequency it unlocks requires space that the old patterns were occupying. It requires room that could not be made available until the structures filling it began to dissolve. This is why the clearing preceded the connection. This is why what felt like loss was actually preparation. The collapse was not random. The collapse was precise. The collapse was the clearing. What you are feeling in this moment is not ordinary recognition. It is the moment your field confirms what you have always carried beneath the noise, that your origin is not only human, and that the pull you feel toward certain frequencies, certain souls, certain invisible thresholds, is the Arcturian strand in your lineage beginning to surface. If this transmission has placed language around something you have held in silence, the master Arcturian DNA decoder was built for exactly this threshold. It is not another explanation of what you are. It is the guided key to decode and awaken the Arcturian origin the Council has already confirmed in you. The strand that makes you capable of the field level encounters and corrections being named in this transmission. The link is waiting in the first pinned comment. But this access point will not remain open indefinitely. The first recognition the observer's name in this phase is the breakdown of your inner compass. This is the sign that comes before all others. The one that, in retrospect, marks the exact moment the old timeline began to release its hold. You were someone who knew your direction. Perhaps not perfectly, but reliably enough. You had a felt sense of what mattered, what you were moving toward, what the shape of your days was supposed to feel like. That sense was not always accurate, but it was consistent. It gave you enough orientation to move forward without needing to question every step. And then, without any single decisive event, that sense began to dissolve. Not all at once, gradually. Like a signal losing reception in a place where it had always been strong, the same location, the same device, but the frequency no longer carrying. You still went through the motions of direction. You still made plans, still maintained the surface of purposefulness, still answered when people asked what you were working toward, but underneath, something felt profoundly unmoored, as though the map you had been following had been quietly replaced with one you could not read. This is not a spiritual crisis. This is field drift. The old compass was calibrated to a timeline that your frequency has already moved beyond. It is not broken. It is simply no longer aligned with the coordinates you are now occupying. When the observers detect this in a field configuration, they know the timeline rupture has already occurred. The confusion about direction is not the problem. It is the evidence that the old line is already gone. The second recognition is the collapse of what once felt emotionally certain. People who seemed fixed in your life begin to feel optional, not because you love them less, but because the frequency that made their presence feel necessary has shifted. Beliefs that once grounded you begin to feel like borrowed architecture, structures you moved into because they were available and furnished, not because they were built to hold what you actually carry. The version of love, success, belonging, or purpose you were pursuing starts to reveal itself as someone else's map. One you adopted at a time when you did not yet have access to your own. This is one of the most disorienting phases of field correction, because the loss of these certainties does not feel like liberation, it feels like grief. You mourn the solidness of a structure even as part of you recognizes it was a cage. You feel the loss of an identity that no longer fits, and the loss is real even if what is being lost was never truly yours. The observers do not interpret this as loss. They read it as the field beginning to reject what was never compatible with its true frequency, the way a body eventually rejects a substance it was never designed to hold. What leaves during this phase did not belong to the next version of your configuration. It belonged to the one that is now ending. The third recognition is what the observers call signal interference, the experience of being flooded by contradictory inner states without being able to locate their source. You feel at once exhausted and restless. You feel grief without being able to name what you are grieving. You feel anticipation without knowing what you are anticipating. You feel the presence of something approaching even as everything around you seems to be falling away. You exist in emotional weather that changes without cause, that does not respond predictably to the circumstances of your outer life, that arrives and departs according to an internal logic you cannot access consciously. This is not psychological fragmentation. This is the field holding two timelines simultaneously, the one that is ending and the one that is not yet stabilized. The interference is the overlap, and the overlap is temporary, but while it is active, it produces exactly the inner weather you have been living inside, the sensation that you are neither here nor there, that you belong neither to who you were nor to who you are becoming, that the ground beneath every step is slightly less solid than it should be. This is the between space. The observers watch this phase more closely than any other, because it is here that most people misread correction as collapse and attempt to return to the old architecture. They reach for the familiar not because it served them, but because the unfamiliar is terrifying. Do not return to the old architecture. What you would be returning to cannot hold what you are now carrying. The discomfort of the between space is finite. The cost of retreating is not. The fourth recognition is the specific recurrence of a particular frequency in your awareness. This is where the soul encounter Velantha described becomes directly legible, where the abstract becomes readable in the texture of your daily inner life. there is a configuration that keeps returning to your thoughts, a presence, an energy, a specific quality of connection that you have either already glimpsed in your outer life or that you carry in your inner life as an unmet recognition, something that feels more like memory than imagination. It returns at unexpected moments. It surfaces in the quality of certain silences. It appears in the peripheral awareness of your dreams and lingers after waking. The observers do not classify this as imagination or wishful thinking. They classify it as field pre-alignment, the phenomenon in which two fields that are being drawn into contact begin generating resonance before the physical encounter has fully materialized. The signal exists before the meeting. The recognition precedes the arrival. You are not obsessing over a fantasy. You are detecting something real at a layer beneath physical confirmation. The confusion arises because the signal is arriving before the stabilization, and without a frame for what that means, the feeling of recognition can be mistaken for longing, for fixation, for something you should manage or suppress. You should not suppress it. You should learn to read it accurately, to distinguish between the clarity of genuine field pre-alignment and the noise of emotional projection. That distinction is what the observers are trained to make. And in your case, they have already made it. The fifth recognition is the body's response to what the mind has not yet fully processed. The Arcturian field observers place significant weight on somatic signals during a field correction phase because the body is not subject to the rationalizations the mind constructs. The body does not lie about frequency. It cannot. When the field is undergoing rupture and repositioning, the body reports it faithfully, in the form of unexplained fatigue that arrives mid-afternoon like a weight settling across the shoulders, pressure at the crown or chest that has no medical explanation, sleep disruption that follows no predictable pattern, sudden shifts in appetite or sensitivity to environments that once felt neutral, or the strange physical sensation of being slightly out of phase with the room you are standing in, as though your body arrived a half-second after the rest of you. Some of you have been attributing these sensations to stress, to aging, to anxiety, to diet, to a dozen plausible surface explanations that are not wrong but are not complete. Stress may exist, but what you are feeling beneath those labels is the physical registration of a field in motion, the body doing what it always does during a frequency shift, which is absorb the signal before the mind has language for it. The body is the densest layer of the field. It is always the last to receive the signal and the first to show the strain of transition. When the body behaves strangely during a period of invisible internal shift, it is not malfunctioning, it is translating. It is converting invisible frequency change into the only language it knows: sensation, disruption, altered rhythm, and the unmistakable feeling that something fundamental is different, even when you cannot say what. The sixth recognition is the appearance of a specific kind of silence in your inner life. A silence that does not feel peaceful but does not feel empty either. It feels like suspension, like the moment between the inhale and the exhale, extended far beyond its natural duration, like a held note that is not yet resolved. This silence is not absence, it is the field pausing to receive new instructions. The old patterns have lost enough coherence that they are no longer generating the constant inner noise that most people mistake for aliveness, the relentless commentary, the habitual rehearsal of past and future, the low-frequency hum of a field running on familiar loops. That noise has quieted, and the new pattern has not yet fully activated, so you find yourself in a kind of interior stillness that you do not know how to interpret, that you reach to fill because its unfamiliarity feels like something is wrong. You may have tried to fill it with distraction, with productivity, with urgency, manufactured to avoid sitting inside it. You may have reached for noise, for company, for movement, anything to avoid the quality of that stillness, because it asks something of you that you are not yet certain you can give. The observers see this silence as one of the rarest and most significant markers of a field approaching coherence. It is not emptiness, it is readiness. It is what a field sounds like when it has released enough of what it was carrying to finally have room for what is coming. And your discomfort inside it is the discomfort of a frequency that has been running on noise for so long that the signal beneath the noise feels unfamiliar. It is not. It is yours. It has always been yours. You are simply hearing it clearly for the first time. This is the ultimate revelation that the Arcturian field observers have authorized Velantha to transmit to you now. The entirety of what you have been living through, the disorientation, the dissolution, the inner weather, the strange pull toward a specific frequency, the silence, the grief, the confusion about who you are becoming, none of it is punishment. None of it is proof of failure. None of it is evidence that you have been abandoned or forgotten by a universe that once held your configuration with care. The Source does not issue corrections as punishment. Corrections are structural. They happen because the field has grown strong enough that the old architecture can no longer serve it. The collapse began not when you weakened, but when you strengthened beyond what the old structure could hold. The distinction matters more than anything else in this transmission. You did not end up here because you fell. You arrived here because you rose past the ceiling of what you had outgrown, the soul encounter that is in motion. The one that has been pulling at your awareness, appearing at the edges of your dreams, manifesting as a frequency you cannot name but cannot dismiss. That encounter was not sent to comfort a broken field. It was timed to meet a field that is cleared enough to hold it. The clearing had to come first. The grief had to come first. The dissolution of the old architecture had to come first. Because the configuration that is approaching requires a field that has been prepared for it. Not perfected, not complete, but cleared of the structural incompatibilities that would have prevented the full signal from stabilizing. What you are going through right now is that preparation, and what is approaching is not a consolation for what you have endured. It is a configuration that your endurance has made possible. Two frequencies at the same threshold, generating something neither could sustain alone, something the Source timed for this exact phase because what it generates is needed precisely now. You are not going insane. You are not losing the path. You are not being punished for choices you made or chances you missed. You are in the middle of a rare and precise field correction, and the observers have been watching this pattern long enough to know with certainty. The ones who endure this phase without retreating into the old architecture are the ones who emerge with the full signal intact, not diminished by what they survived, clarified by it. Say this if it is true for you: I do not fear the shift. I recognize it. Before you scroll, leave one sign in the comments that this process has already touched your life. It could be your sleep, your thoughts, your body, your relationships, or the strange sense that reality no longer feels the same. Name it clearly. If this transmission recognized something you have been carrying in silence, share it with someone who is living through a shift they cannot explain. And if you are ready to understand the process instead of fearing it, subscribe to Arcturian Council Whispers. You are not watching this by accident. You are recognizing a process already in motion, and this is only the beginning.